and that deserve to be there, that can be good citizens. And how do we do that for our gut bacteria? We start eating more whole plant-based foods. We eat fiber. We eat good bioactives. We eat the positive bioactives in whole foods. We cut down on chemicals, synthetic chemicals, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors. We try to grow back the good guys, and the bad guys will start to go away because the good guys can overgrow. They can actually dominate if you give them the opportunity. And so what we do is we can eat three types of foods. Number one, we can eat prebiotic foods. These are foods with a lot of dietary fiber. Broccoli, apples, lots of fruits, pears, mushrooms, celery, kale, lots of these green veggies, red bell peppers, green peppers, onions. They all contain lots of dietary fiber. Awesome. Great. Good for you. Even bamboo shoots that you might get in an Asian market, for example. I was just thinking about that because I said I went to an Asian market the other day. Also, great way of getting dietary fiber. That's why pandas eat bamboo, by the way. They get the dietary fiber. Good bacteria helps to grow. You can also eat bacteria itself. So bacteria in foods, again, we were always told if you look in your fridge and you see some blue stuff growing on your food, toss it out. True. Please do that. You don't want to be getting food poisoning. But there are certain foods that have good bacteria in them. What kind of foods? Yogurt. It's fermented with good bacteria. Kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles, all made with good, healthy bacteria. And even some cheeses, which, have a lot of saturated fat and salt, so not really healthy for you. Even some of the cheeses can actually have good bacteria that are actually growing. Sourdough bread. I'm not telling people to eat a lot of carbs or eat a lot of bread, but if you're going to eat bread, sourdough, that tang, that characteristic flavor of sourdough bread is made by lactic acid. How do you get the lactic acid in sourdough bread? You have a good, healthy bacteria that should be growing in our gut called lactobacillus. Lactobacillus, that kind of bacteria makes lactic acid, which makes sourdough taste tangy. The bacteria remnants are in that bread, and you eat them. You're actually replenishing your body by contributing to the ecosystem. And then, of course, there's something called postbiotics. And postbiotics are really whatever the bacteria produces, can we actually add some of that into our system as well? Well, it turns out a jar of pickles or a jar of kimchi or a jar of sauerkraut already has postbiotics because the bacteria are already in there. And they're already making their stuff. So we're already eating some of that good stuff. And I think that's really the thing to do. Stay away from the bad things for your gut microbiome. Add some of the good things for your gut microbiome. One last point about this is that what makes our gut microbiome happiest? It turns out it's not just plant-based foods, but diversity. If you eat the same damn thing every single day, your gut bacteria gets really bored and doesn't like it. So try to eat 20 or 30 different kinds of plant-based foods every week. All right. Not that hard to do. Spices count. Put some seasoning on there. It might be 4 or 5 plant-based foods already. In a salad, use more than romaine lettuce. Put different kinds of greens in there. Light them up. Diversity is what our gut microbiome thrives on. And so this is where I think that this idea of loving your food and loving your health come into play. This is not about being a robot and following only 1 or 2 foods, and you got to eat a lot of it all the time. But, look at all these foods. I read about more than 200 foods that need to beat disease. All of them come from food traditions that you can combine and make absolutely delicious and tasty. So that's actually how you get this diversity, which your gut microbiome will thank you for by having more diverse foods means more diverse bacteria, which means a healthier microbiome, which means an overall healthier body.
For somebody tuning in who's realizing, okay, this is all great, but I've been abusing my microbiome for my life up until this point, maybe through artificial sweeteners, antibiotics, pesticides on produce. What I'm getting at here is there good research showing that if we include this fiber in these fermented foods and we don't have a good microbiome to start, do these bacteria we're taking in, did they actually seed and stay there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's not a single bacteria. It's really the response of the ecosystem. And it turns out that if you eat a healthy food like a kiwi, for example, that has a lot of dietary fiber, it will cause your gut microbiome to grow healthy bacteria within 24 hours. So it doesn't take much to actually start the process of rehab going. And that's really what we're talking about. It's a process. And of course, you do want to actually cut down or cut out the bad stuff, because if you're just shoveling in harmful things to your gut microbiome, like you're not giving it a chance to recover. You want to back off the bad stuff, start the good stuff. And it's pretty quick. Actually, you can actually usually get a replenishment of your gut microbiome. These days, by the way, Jesse, you can actually order out and send out your stool sample to have your own gut microbiome checked. So things actually, we're beginning. It's not mainstream yet, and maybe some of the tests aren't quite ready for prime time. But it's a really, really useful way for us to be able to monitor our own health by looking for those healthy gut bacteria.
Oh, that's great. And I just want to make sure what I'm getting at specifically, though, is the assumption that there is still, even if we've abused the microbiome, certain seeds and bits of the good bacteria that when we put the right stuff in, those bloom and take up adequate space like they should? Or is it actually bacteria that are coming off the fermented food, or just, bacteria in our environment that we're taking in that are repopulating from ground zero?
It's actually a little bit of all the above. So it's the good bacteria getting an edge once again to grow back and fill up the spot that they want to fill up. It's the good bacteria that you're eating in the foods that you're eating with some of the bacteria. By the way, kimchi, has 2 bacteria that have been newly discovered, like new to the biology world, that is present only in kimchi. I was really absolutely surprised. I'm not Korean, but I do like kimchi. And one of them is actually fights influenza. It actually is a bacteria that actually helps us fight the flu. And another one actually helps us improve our metabolism. And so there are these unique bacteria that grow in foods that are actually really good for us. And so, yes, we want to be able to eat some of those, and they stick and they grow. The ones that are good already can actually grow back and expand more. And of course, we're being in contact with bacteria all the time anyway in our environment. One of the things we're starting to realize is that living in a sterile environment, not so good for us. We need to be participating in our planet, which is not so much as a dirty planet. I mean, well, maybe it is a dirty planet, but basically we need to actually be in contact with. We need to be at one with the different kinds of bacteria out there. So you got a kid, let them play in the dirt a little bit. They're actually getting some good bacteria from the planet to help keep challenging their gut to making sure it's in good shape.